Wow. Another year, guys. I have this big, huge open ready for you, but I'm just, forget it. We all know each other. Rob, Tom, Lee,
Listen,
Braden,
if this
Ara,
is the kind of production value I can expect every year, then you and I are going to have a talk about this. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm coming next year if you're going to phone it in this bad. I phoned it in.
Okay, who had the over-under for 30 seconds that Tom would make fun of me?
As long as the check doesn't bounce, Tom, I'm fine with it, right?
You're getting a check?
As long as...
Jeez.
Was I not supposed to say that, DJ? Sorry, man. I was supposed to keep that to myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Well, Braden, all the appearances you've had on my show, I got to stop paying you, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to break the bank, right?
Oh, how's everybody doing? Lee, sitting down there looking for his check?
Not bad. Yeah, I'm expecting my little dollar, but yeah, pretty decent. This is super fun. I'm so happy to be here again. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on in life lately, and this is a super bright spot. So I'm loving it and happy to see all of your faces as I scan around my screen as we talk virtually in this modern world to all these people. It's great.
Yeah, this is like looking at you guys on the screen. It's like the home theater version of the Brady Bunch. We got to start looking around the squares.
We just need Alice in the middle.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm going to let everybody know. I'm going to let the cat.
That sounded like.
I'm going to let the cat out of the bag because I want everybody to know that the six of us did try to get together over the summer, and it just didn't, because the listeners asked for it, and we tried, and it just didn't work out. Everybody going on vacation at different times. It's like, I think Ara and Braden, you guys were gone from like between the two of you early on in June into July, then we all were just bouncing around, but we did try, but I really appreciate that everybody came together. I mean, we all said, as soon as we put it out for this year, every single one of you guys, we were all like, yeah, we couldn't wait to do it. So thanks for all being here. That's pretty awesome. And second year. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. And Rob, for you, it's a little bit late, but happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. Right. Yeah. All of America celebrating Thanksgiving a month late, as they always do, but that's all right. This is Thankful in the Multiverse of Podcasts this year. I think that's what we're going to call this one. It is the crossover event between the HT guys, Ara and Braden from the HDTV and Home Theater Podcast, DJ from the Brightside Home Theater Podcast, and Tom, Rob, and Lee, all of us from AV Rant Podcast. So it's our crossover event, Thanksgiving episode, second annual, and we're going to keep it casual. In case you couldn't tell this year, not quite as structured as last year, because over-planning led to over 2 hours, and we're going to try to avoid that. So we're just gonna talk about what we're thankful for, and the first thing we're going to all agree that we're thankful for are the listeners of our various podcasts, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. There's no podcast without people listening.
That's right. And if you're listening
to
well said. Well said.
I'm here.
If you're listening to one of our podcasts and not listening to the other ones, you need to go out and make sure that you listen to all three of the podcasts, because we'll help you get through the AV Rant Podcast will help you get through your longer workouts and your commutes. And then you can use the other two to fill in the other dead spots of your time, because I think we've got we're the longest podcast. So,
how long
we're
are
the
your
biggest
shows?
Commitment. At least 2 hours.
Shows?
2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours plus. Listeners have formed a 2-hour club, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's right.
If we hit 4, we have to call the doctor.
Yeah. Of course, if any of you write in and mention that you have listened to any other podcasts besides ours, then we'll call you a traitor. But we don't really mean it. It's, it's quite all right to listen to other ones, as evidenced by all of us getting together here. Towards the end of the podcast, we're gonna take some listener questions, because we want to make sure the listeners are included in this thing, that it's not literally just the six of us talking about ourselves. We're gonna have some questions that came in from our podcast listeners. We're all gonna weigh in and have some fun with that. So we're just going to kick it off with what we've all been thankful for this year in our home theaters. Braden, why don't you start us off?
Oh, you pick me first, huh?
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
So I would say that I am most thankful for the quality of streaming that we're getting at home and the rentals. Not all rentals, but Netflix and everything else. But I was sitting at home watching, I think it's called Red Notice, the movie that just came out on Netflix with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot. Great movie. I mean, kind of what you would expect from a Rock and Ryan Reynolds movie, but it was fun. It was entertaining. And watching the family and friends that I was with, watching at home, reacting to the surround sound. It was Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, and seeing them turn around and react to things happening behind them was just amazing to watch. And then going through my mind of the progression of watching movies at home from like Sunday night movies on ABC, and then we got VCRs and we could record them. And then there was Blockbuster and all the way up to where we are now. I mean, watching movies at home is phenomenal now. And I don't even need to go to the theater anymore. So I love it.
Really is.
Do you still have a disc player on hand? Do you still prefer or make a point of switching over to that if it's an important movie, or is just streaming all the way for Braden now?
Streaming all the way, man. Yeah, I got rid of my disc player a couple years ago and haven't looked back.
It is stunningly good. I remember when Sony PlayStation first had a streaming television service, and I was like, I looked at it and went, nah, cable still looks better. And then cable cut everything down to 720p, and streaming has gotten better. It's flipped completely. So we're about to get rid of cable finally, and it's a beautiful thing.
You can always count on me to be the last adopter.
HDR.
Yeah, sports in 4K looks pretty awesome too. Every once in a while, you can get a game, in 4K. There was a Super Bowl in 4K a little while ago, or a couple years ago. That was pretty awesome on Fox. So
I hear the people in Europe are raving about the HDR on TV, and we don't have a lot of it. I hear you guys talk about it, Ara and Braden. I hear you guys talk about it all the time. I guess it's sporadic over here, but it's not as prevalent as it is over in Europe, and that's where it's supposed to be really, really nice.
Yeah, so every Premier League match
specifically
is 4K HDR, I believe, right? And because there's less than there, like if you look at every college football game in the U.S., to try to do that in 4K would be ridiculous. But yeah, every Premier League match is in 4K. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, getting a little contrast, but also some agreement on that. I think DJ, I'll come to you next because you also have comments on stream, but I also know you're a fan of physical media too, and maybe we'll get into a little bit of the hardware of what you did in your theater. So why don't you carry on from what Braden just started?
Yeah,
there?
well, what I'm thankful for this year, and it's recency bias, and you guys saw it when I put it in the email, but I'm like, this IMAX Enhanced coming to streaming, but it's multifold on why I'm like thankful for it. Is like what I like about it is like a lot of what Braden said is how good streaming is getting, and they're making it to the point that it is so close to what I love physical media, and I do the ABs all the time on which is better, and it is a difference. But if I went to Braden's house, I mean, if we live closer than a country apart and we went from one house to the next, you really wouldn't be able to tell. There's more discernible differences in other parts of home theater than there is between physical and streaming. And I still like physical because I always know that that's the most consistent, and I like to have the best, and I want to know that's what I'm getting, and that's fine. That's my choice. But if you want to do everything streaming, I've had people tell me like people like Braden, and they're like, look, why do I need a Kaleidoscape or a Zapedi? I have an Apple TV and I have iTunes. It's just as good. Well, okay. It is very, very good, but there is a difference. But getting back to the IMAX Enhanced, it's just a game changer, I think, because it's actually, well, Tom's questioning me.
Yeah, I'm with Tom on that one.
So here's why it's a game changer to me, is because it's pushing the envelope. If they can do something that's going to scare Dolby into maybe upping their game a little bit on streaming or on disc, we all know Thor Ragnarok, that sucked. But if we get a streaming version in DTS that beats that, people are going to notice. And that's what I like about IMAX Enhanced. It's not just to be able to take that format in my house. It's the competition, and competition breeds excellence. And that's what I really like about it. And how do you argue with that, guys?
Well, just for clarity,
Tom's still working on it.
Well, I got a question. How did the DTS sound better than Dolby Digital or Dolby Atmos on the IMAX?
It doesn't yet. They don't have DTS:X yet, right. But they're going to be rolling that out to it. No, but that's what I'm saying. But Ara, what I like about the IMAX is that they're adding this on, and you see the articles. I said it in my podcast a couple of weeks ago. You see the articles, and they're like, "Oh, it's just a marketing thing." No kidding. They just want to get you to pay for their service. No kidding. That's what they're doing it for. But it's upping the game. It's advancing and evolving home theater for us. And if the DTS:X version comes out in streaming and it's comparable to Dolby Atmos or better than streaming Atmos, that's competition. That's what we're looking for, because that's going to drive everything to be better. And then that's going to drive streaming to, like what Braden's saying. It's like, it's just getting better every year.
Well, yeah. And that, so I watched some, you didn't hear our show for this week because we're recording the show, and the show that we would release this Friday has not come out yet. We talk a little bit about IMAX Enhanced, and I said exactly what you said. I think it's more of a marketing thing. I do enjoy having a bigger picture on the screen. I do enjoy, because the CinemaScope has got more black bars on the top and bottom. The IMAX Enhanced has less black bars on the top and bottom, but I've A/B'd them back and forth. That was really the only discernible difference. The audio to me sounded like it was a little bit better, but I think that could have been psychological. Because the reality is, between DTS and Dolby, the new cinema stuff, there should be no difference, because it is exactly what the audio engineer intended. There's compression, but it is at least lossless. So if you're getting exactly what the audio engineer intended, and DTS is just a marketing point at this point, because Atmos should be no different than DTS:X.
Well, it depends on if they had two different audio mixers working on it, though. If they had one Atmos person taking the audio mix and doing an Atmos mix, and having a different person doing a DTS mix, then you can end up. You're just talking about the container shouldn't make any difference, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. Even though with DTS they do steer sound slightly differently as far as how you label your overhead speakers. They can do it slightly differently, so there may be some differences based on that. But if the containers themselves shouldn't make any difference, I would agree with that. But more often than not, I think you end up with two different audio mixers doing the mixes for each individual one. And DTS almost always kind of errs on the side of, let's just up that bass just a bit, because everybody likes the bass. And they also tend to goose the overheads too. So you will
make them more noticeable.
Almost certainly with a DTS mix, notice more overhead sounds than you will with an Atmos mix.
All right, so that goes to the mixer then, not the technology.
No, not the technology. I agree. The technology
changed
should be
if you
the
had
same.
that same mixer using a different tool, same sort of thing. But anyway, so I will, as I said on my podcast, will watch, if I had a choice, I'll watch the IMAX Enhanced, just because I have a better picture. But in no way would I ever say that it's going to replace the IMAX experience. You just don't have a 2-story high screen in your house.
Yeah, just for clarity's sake, at the time we're talking about this, Disney Plus is the one streaming service that's offering IMAX Enhanced movies. And really, right now, all it is the aspect ratio. They haven't actually changed any of the underlying delivery technology. It's still Dolby Vision. It's still Dolby Atmos. They've talked about DTS:X is going to get added in the future. I don't know if they'll switch from Dolby Vision to HDR10 Plus, which is what IMAX Enhanced discs used. But for right now, it's really just the aspect ratio change. But I mean, you hit right on it, because I wanted to get everybody's opinion on that. Like, given the choice, Ara, we know he's going to go for the taller aspect ratio. Do we all agree on that? Because I mean, I had to laugh a bit. The AV Forums guys over in the UK, a couple of their hosts have invested in 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio projection screens, and they said, oh, it's just a gimmick. They're like, but then again, we have CinemaScope screens, so every time it switches aspect ratio, we get stuff projected above and below our screens, and we don't like it. So there's a little bit of bias in that opinion. I don't think it's a gimmick. I'm like, if I went to an IMAX theater, that's the aspect ratio I would have seen. It would have switched between 1.9 to 1 and 2.35 to 1. And if I can get that at home, I want it. But the question I want to pose to the panel here is, if you've got a choice between Ultra HD Blu-ray disc, but it's in 2.35 to 1 the entire time, or Disney Plus streaming, but it'll give you the option of going to the IMAX aspect ratio, Which one do you choose? Is the slightly higher bit rate of the disc worth it to not to be stuck at that one aspect ratio? Lee, why don't you start on that one?
What matters to me is, what did the director want me to see? Because you can't have a movie that had an artistic decision made about the aspect ratio that you show in 2 different aspect ratios. One of them is right, and that's the one I want to see. That's what's frustrating. So wherever the black bars are on my screen, I just want to see what I'm supposed to see. That's what I want to see, because somebody made a decision. This is framed like this, with stuff in the frame laid out thus. So I want to know, what did the director really want me to see? And that's what I want to see. So either way.
Braden, did you have a thought on that one? Have you had a chance to watch it yet?
I haven't seen any of the IMAX stuff yet. I am a fan, like DJ said, of increased competition, right? So the idea that DTS, because Dolby kind of owns all the streaming at this point, so the idea that DTS could get in there and introduce some competition is cool. I'm going to go streaming either way, right? I don't play discs at all, so
he started
this with no discs. Yeah.
And I know from DJ's own podcast, he wants all the options, right? So you want both flavors of disc. You're hoping that having it on streaming will lead to another disc release with the IMAX version on it, right?
Well, yeah, eventually that's what I would like, is that we get what we're seeing on Disney Plus right now. Hopefully they will try to go for that money grab, make some money off of the discs, and we're the suckers, or I'm the sucker that'll do it. But to answer your question, I've said on my podcast, I'm like, yeah, I'll do the Disney Plus IMAX Enhanced over the disc.
Okay.
Because it is that much, like Ara said, he goes, I think this.
You guys heard it here first, right?
That's
right. In IMAX Enhanced, because you can't get that on disc. And it's a combination of like what Ara said and what Lee said. So Lee's like, I want to get what the director intended. I've always wanted that. And the most consistent way to get that has been typically through physical media, right? Because it's a little bit of a downgrade on streaming. But now where you can only get the IMAX, the aspect ratio that the director intended on Disney Plus at a very slight downgrade on picture and sound, but to Ara's point, sounded better there because it plays with your head because it's so great looking. I screen grabbed that shot of Chris Hemsworth at the beginning of Infinity War, and when you see it, those black bars are literally blocking. They don't open up the picture.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't expand the picture. They actually crop it to do the CinemaScope because they shot the entire movie in IMAX.
Yeah, it's the same width. They just chopped off some of the top and bottom to make it fit.
And if you guys don't know, and Braden, if you haven't messed with it yet, when you go on Disney Plus and pause the movie, you can choose between IMAX Enhanced. You click back, you pick widescreen or theatrical version or IMAX Enhanced. And when you hit play, it goes right back to where you paused it.
Yeah.
So you can actually do that. It's real easy to do that A/B yourself on all those scenes. It's super easy.
Tom's thought, is it a gimmick, Tom? Are the UK guys right? Is it only a gimmick?
Okay, so if you've ever seen one of those shots where it's over the shoulder for the director and they're looking at a screen, right? And that's the screen that it's an entirety of what the camera is capturing, and then there'll be like an outline of the CinemaScope window or the 2.35 to 1 letterbox window, and that's what's actually going to be captured and put onto the actual release. That window right there, what they're actually doing and you can actually read this in some of the directors that are complaining about IMAX Enhanced. They're like, that's not the way I intended this movie to be viewed. Because I filmed everything and framed everything thinking there's going to be 99% of the people are going to see this on a screen that's going to have a 2.35 to 1 aspect ratio. And they're going to do that because they're either going to see it streaming, they're going to see it on TV or something like that, or they're going to get the disc. And those are all 2.35 to 1s. Now, the overshoot and the other stuff that's in there, IMAX theaters will show that, but that's just sort of I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried about framing this middle part here. So I disagree that it's a game changer now, because I don't think it is. I think what it is it is a gimmick at this very, very moment. But going forward, now you are suddenly giving filmmakers options, and you're giving them the ability to say, I don't want to be locked into 2.35 to 1. I don't want to be locked in always to having the screen be just this one aspect ratio. I want to be able to switch around based on what kind of scene I'm filming and how I want to frame that scene. So, I think that it can be and probably will be a game changer. And the fact that Disney is, you can actually look at, like, I was just watching one of their like Avengers Assembled cartoons or whatever, and it's just constant changing aspect ratio and things flying out of the black bars and stuff like that with my son. And we're not thinking anything of it because we don't really notice it, but they are using that framing to convey emotion, to convey, the seriousness of different scenes and whether or not it's an interpersonal scene or whether or not it's an action scene. So, directors right now are going to be very much locked into the way they've always done stuff, which is film it in a pick an aspect ratio, whatever it might be, and that's the one you film it in for the entire way. But allowing them to have the ability to change that aspect ratio when they want to, I think you're going to see directors really latch onto that in the very near future.
I still remember The Dark Knight. What was that, 2008 or 9?
Yeah.
When they literally switched within the movie. I was watching it on an IMAX screen, and it went from 4:3 to 2.35 back and forth. I thought it was cool. And that would give you that
Nolan's
option
done it in a few
Disney
of
Plus.
his movies.
Yeah.
Well, Ara, what are you thankful for this year in your home theater?
So sort of like what Braden was saying, I'm thankful for IPTV, which is just a streaming form of getting my television. For me, I bought into the AT&T TV Now at the very beginning. I guess they called it did they call it that? But anyway, it doesn't matter.
DirecTV Now, right? Wasn't it originally?
Yeah, they had like
Now?
75 different names for it since. But now it's DirecTV Stream. Regardless, what I liked about it was that I could take it with me. And at the beginning, the quality wasn't that good. It's better. It's still not great, but it's still good enough for common stuff. And what I mean by taking it with me is we go to visit my mother-in-law. She lives 4 hours away. She's got an Apple TV. I log into my account on the DirecTV Stream app. I've got all my channels. And I go on vacation on my iPad or my laptop. I've got all my channels. So it's really nice that I could take it with me. And since then, a lot of the cable companies have come up with a similar streaming type of thing. But at the time, it was just that. But the really big thing is I could switch at a drop of a hat. I don't have a satellite on my house, a satellite dish. I could, if I wanted to switch over to Sling TV, I switch over to Sling TV or YouTube TV or whatever. I'm not locked into a contract. So it has really opened up the what I can use. But the other day we were driving someplace and my daughter was in the back seat and she was watching something on her iPhone. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? Your uncles and I, when we were little kids driving back from Las Vegas in the back of my dad's Chrysler Newport, we would like fight with each other because we were so damn bored. Said now we would talk about, wouldn't it be cool if we could watch TV here? You're living the dream. That's what I tell them.
Oh, yeah. Ara, did you have that bubble game that you fill with water and you had to push the buttons at the bottom to squirt the rings up and over?
Oh
my goodness. I remember that game. Totally.
My parents,
I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
What about those little 2-button video games that had like you could move a guy from 3 different spots and stuff would fall down?
Right. It was like 12
hours.
LEDs and somehow that was a football game.
Well,
those were the days.
Braden and I, we didn't have LEDs when I was a kid. We literally had like soapy water with bubbles and you would push like what
I remember those too.
just said.
Yeah.
I know. It wasn't even soapy. It was like a container of water and then you just pushed a button and it would squirt a jet stream inside there. You couldn't see it, but you just saw the rings flip up and you had to get them on and move. And you got 4 kids in the back of a Plymouth Volare doing that, trying to play their Aqua video game.
There must be an app version of that. There's no way there's not an app version of that.
Yeah.
So imagine this.
No water needed.
We're driving down I-15 from Nevada to California, and we're in a car, no seatbelts, because this is like the 70s, and doing about 85, 90 miles an hour, and we're fighting, the 3 of us. My dad goes, one of you get up in the front. So while driving, somebody
sitting
hops
on the
into
hump in the middle,
hops into the front seat, and we have peace and quiet for a little bit. But it was very boring. But that's what IPTV Now allows that. But by the same token, we can drive in a car, nobody's talking because they're watching TV. So there's a good and bad side of that.
Yeah.
The other plus side is with your cable, you used to have a separate box on every television in order to watch TV, and you had to rent another box. With IPTV, you just have the app on, as long as you have a smart TV or you get a box or a little HDMI streamer, you can have TV on anywhere, in the garage, in the backyard. It's actually pretty cool, right? And it cuts down the bill significantly.
Yeah, it sure seems like there's sort of a common thread through all of, it just sort of worked out. We've sort of talked about the software side of it with Braden and DJ and Ara, and it's like, it's just consumer choice, right? It's just having more options, having more freedom, having more choice. I mean, that sort of sums up what we're really thankful for on that side, and it appears that it's just going to continue down that path. We'll see if it actually plays out that way, but I think that's sort of how it's going. As it just worked out, Tom and Lee and myself, I think we're all going to talk about more hardware related stuff. So, I mean, this relates to consumer choice as well. So, Tom, what are you thankful for this year in 2021?
Oh, first of all, I want to say that if you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy first movie, the little handheld device that he runs around scanning things with or whatever is a little vector graphics football game that I used to absolutely dominate after across the country road trips. I would score hundreds upon hundreds of points against the opposing team. I if there was Twitch back then, I would have been a speedrunner or some sort of massive star. Yeah, it was pretty good. But I am thankful right now that we are seeing an insane trend towards screens getting much larger, much better, and much cheaper for the same amount of money that my parents bought. Because I told them what to buy. Like it's 56-inch plasma from Samsung not so long ago. You can get like a 75-inch LCD with full array local dimming and everything else right now. It's insane. And as somebody who owns a projector and has owned one for a very long time, it is quickly getting to the point where I do not see myself continuing down the projector line going forward, because the flat panels are legitimately better than projectors on almost every single metric. They are just they're brighter. They have better, in if not just have HDR. Plus, they have the access to Dolby Vision, which of course projectors don't have, and they just they can get blacker, the whole thing, and they're a little more convenient. You don't have to have the big projector at the back of the room. And considering I ran an HDMI cable in my wall, 10 years ago, not getting 4K to whatever projector I put back there anyway without rerunning an HDMI cable. So having one that's close to all my gear just makes things so much easier. And I can still get the same field of view just by moving, a 75-inch screen, a foot closer than I have my current screen, which is wall mounted. And if you just put a piece of furniture up there, it looks totally natural. So I'm really excited to see that. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that love their projectors and they want their big 135, vomit-inducing inch screen, and they sit 3.5 feet away from. More power to you. But I'm looking for the best possible image, and I think that for right now, for the money, flat panels have finally gotten to the point where I can start saying, a projector's really not worth it. And I think that's real exciting. I think it's a as I guess the word of the day is going to be game changer, but I really do feel like we're finally getting to the point where these, because 65-inch, 55-inch screen, you have to sit real close to make that into a cinematic experience. But once you get to 75, 80 inches, you're suddenly into that realm of I can still sit 6 to 7 to 8 feet away from this, and it feels like I'm in a movie theater.
Well, you said 75 or 80, but 85 is common now.
Yeah.
Even the 83-inch OLEDs, under $5,000 now, that's a lot of money, but you compare it to the cost of a top tier projector.
Sure.
If you were going to go for a 92-inch screen and a top tier projector, under $5,000 for an 83-inch OLED, they're not that far apart in size, and the cost might actually be lower. And then with the new 11th generation facilities for making flat panels, like 100-inch screens, 98 or 100-inch screens, this year they were $20,000, but that price is set. I mean, everybody's predicting right out of the gate in 2022, that's going to be like a 15% reduction in price on 100-inch flat panel screens. Still going to be very expensive, but we're only seeing that trend down.
Think about this.
It's interesting.
Not that I'm condoning buying an 8K TV, but Samsung has a Black Friday deal, an 82 or 85-inch, I don't remember the number exactly, at Costco for, I think it was $4,400. But if you don't want 8K, you can get the Sony version. I think Braden has this one for $2,400. So I completely agree with Tom on that.
Wow.
And not having to run cables and being able just to bring that thing in, and they're not that heavy. I mean, comparatively, it's probably over 100 pounds, but it's easy to put it on a TV stand or even mount it on a wall.
I haven't been able to play a Wii or any of those games that have like a camera that you can, even Rock Band. When I used to love to play Rock Band, I had to sit practically outside the room because I was in front of the projector if I tried to sit in front of it. So, I just want to be able to not have to worry about something hitting the back of my head when I stand up.
Yeah, so I totally agree. That is a really cool thing about what's happening now.
Well, I'm going to let myself go next for what I'm thankful for in 2021 and say I'm happy that Onkyo's back. They were gone for basically all of 2020. Weren't seeing any new products from them. We were questioning whether Onkyo / Pioneer as a company was like even still around. They attempted to get themselves sold to Sound United, and then that deal did not go through. So they're back. Onkyo's back. They've got models out, and along with them came HDMI 2.1 switching that actually works. So I'm very thankful for that. We've been waiting for HDMI 2.1 to finally be a real, genuine thing that we don't have to fret over whether it will A, function at all, or B, if it does function, you might only have it on a single input, which has been the case for Denon & Marantz. And then like Samsung's televisions, Samsung's very expensive televisions that came with one HDMI 2.1 input, and then you didn't have an AV receiver that could switch for you. So yeah, I'm thankful for that because I don't want to only ever recommend Denon, and then when Denon comes along and only has one HDMI 2.1 input and no switching, I don't want to have literally no other options. So thank you to Onkyo for coming back. I appreciate that Denon & Marantz brought out their 3-in 1-out switchers, but that's a $200 add-on. So when it's just built into the AV receiver, I'm much happier with that.
We spent all of 2020 telling people not to buy receivers. It was a tough year. It's a tough year to tell people. They're like, well, what receiver I should buy? Nothing. You should buy nothing. You should just suffer like the rest of us because there ain't nothing out there that works. Well, they said their firmware's updates coming out. Yeah, that firmware update ain't ever coming out.
What was the majority of the reason people wanted to upgrade their receiver?
They were at home.
No, I know that, but I mean, like, what was their previous receiver not doing that they were looking for?
Most people, when they upgrade their receivers, they're upgrading from something they've had for 5, 10, 15 years. They're now upgrading and they've got the time and the money, and so they're doing it. So they like, out of all the stuff that's out there, what's the best one? I'm like, none of them, because it's immediately going to be obsolete hopefully next year, which it still kind of isn't obsolete yet.
But I mean, there are a lot of gamers, and even though we joke about nobody's been able to buy a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, that's not actually true. They've sold millions upon millions of those consoles, and even
I
though
don't have one yet.
Yeah. Even though it's a small fraction of people who are into gaming and have one of the next gen consoles and have, a full immersive audio setup that uses a separate AV receiver, it's some portion, and people were looking for it. And it's like, I want something that actually works. I'd like to be able to plug my Xbox, brand new Series X, into my AV receiver and have that feed my television and be able to take advantage of all the features. So we've been waiting on it, and that's why I'm happy. I think we can say it's here. It's still difficult to buy those Onkyos. They're out of stock. But we've seen people
in small quantities
post pictures.
There's
Some people have
outline in dust on the shelf where it used to be.
That's right.
And if you stand there long enough, maybe somebody will put another one there. But for they exist. There's pictures in the wild. They're like the Bigfoot of receivers.
Have they not done what like Newegg has done with video cards and had like a lottery where you put your name in and you win a chance to buy it? Maybe.
Right. Lovely. Well,
they should.
Lee, why don't you bring us home with what you're thankful for in 2021? I mean, you got a hold of something that's been difficult to keep in stock, so I think I know where you're leaning this year.
That's true. So my favorite piece of tech this year that I can watch YouTube and Netflix on is a Tesla Model 3. And it's been an absolute blast to have that car. I highly recommend it. But it's a whole, I don't like to upgrade things unless I get a really new function. Something's really different or new about it, right? That's why our couch is 20 years old. Couches don't do anything new. You just sit on them. It's comfortable. It's not falling apart. But, we bought the OLED because it was better. Like, it really made a difference. It was bigger and better. And so we kept our last car 20 years because what you going to do? The next car is just another car just like it. So that's been a lot of fun. And it does have a kicking good sound system in it. I remember telling Rob recently it was what did I say? Oh, it was Kenwood good.
There you go.
Anyone have like a really good Kenwood system from the 80s and 90s, like spent a lot of money on it, got like the best 3-way 6x9s they had, right? Like really good high end and stuff. So it's a great stereo in that car, best I've ever heard. So that's been a real tech upgrade for us. And it's a whole different world. It's strange to plug your car in.
Tesla
if you can get an EV,
insufferable. Let's just all agree on that.
Yes. Oh, I admit
okay. Thank
we're
you,
insufferable.
Tom. Thank you. Because
Go ahead.
I have a
GT350.
I have a GT350, and I hate it that if we were to line up against each other at a red light, you would just blow my car away. It just irritates the crap out of me. And
you know what irritates me?
And you don't have to do anything. All you do is put your foot on the gas or the accelerator, and just sit there for the ride. There's no shifting, nothing. It is not really fair.
I understand. I just slam the electrons and off we go. But I know how you feel though, because like that's really my wife's car. My car is still the old 18-year-old 350Z. And the 350Z is about a 0 to 60 in 5.5. And that was the fun car, right? And now we're blowing that one away. So what's the point of my car anymore? So I don't know what to do next.
If we were to race to Las Vegas, I'd win.
Oh, yeah.
I guess if you didn't, it depends on how much you need to eat and pee. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we have to stop a little bit longer, but not really that much.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
enough for me to close the gap.
Yeah, that's true. I'd take off quicker, but eventually I do get there.
No, but it is a cool car. I have somebody who lives on my street, and we've talked about it. And I've seen videos of people accelerating from 0 to like 110 in no time.
Nothing.
Oh yeah.
And you just hold on, and you don't have to shift. My car is the manual shift, 6-shift,
right?
But it sounds so much better than your car.
I guess
they're geared. They're quicker than roller coasters.
Any second
Like,
now, Ara's
listen,
going to tell you to get off his lawn,
slower.
all right? It's coming. Ara is going to scream at you to get off his lawn with your stupid electric car and your millennial avocado toast. It's coming.
I
So
do
just
like
get
Those cars are
avocado
actually
toast, that is
piping
true.
engine noise into the car and outside the car. Like the Porsche, you can add engine noise on.
Yeah.
I can do that if I want to, actually. I can play vroom vroom sounds. There's a speaker outside if I want to play it. So if I just feel like it. But you'd be surprised. The thing that's amazing about it's not the speed, though. That's fun. But what's amazing is the whole lifestyle change. You never go to a gas station again.
Oh,
like you're just
God.
plugging in. That's the thing's cool.
How
about
is your wife
so-
still with you at this point? That's the real question.
I guess she's as nerdy as I am about this.
I mean, she must love
loves
it as much as you do,
I mean-
because I couldn't make it through a full dinner listening to this. It's insufferable.
Listen, we test drove one last summer in 2020, and I took her there. So you got to at least drive it and see what you think. And she didn't want to like it. She thought for sure it wouldn't be a big deal, and then she loved it. And then we had to get one. So it's great. So anyway, other non-Tesla Model 3 things. One little thing, the HBO Max app finally showed up on the LG OLED this year, and it makes me happy. Now it's
that you don't have to switch devices.
Yes, it's like what I call it, 42.6% easier to watch HBO now. Because you still have to figure out, is this Max or is this regular HBO? But we had to do
Got
it
a
two
Tesla in
different
the
ways.
garage, but he can't get a Fire Stick or an Apple TV or anything.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
we had a Chromecast stick, right?
You
And
would
that's how
think
we
you could
get
just
HBO
plug your
Max.
Tesla into your TV and then just
Tesla.
tell your Tesla what you want to watch, and then every time you press the button on the remote, it goes vroom vroom vroom. Every time you
Dude,
press a button.
I could stream the camera from the car wherever it is in the world through my television if I
Oh
want
my
to.
God.
If I hook my computer up to the TV,
Yup.
or mirror my phone to the TV.
Or put your
That's
phone in front of the
useful.
camera in your car and stream that to your television.
geez.
That's the height of quality.
I could, but I also, like, if somebody's messing with my car, I can talk to them through that outdoor speaker. through the XDR. Hey, what are you doing?
Here, Lee's voice.
Hey, who are you kidding? Nobody's going to mess with a Tesla. Yeah, nobody's going to get near a Tesla.
It's kind of hard to steal. I don't think anyone knows how to steal them yet.
Because nobody wants to.
Okay. Good. Please don't come take my car. It's really nice.
Oh my God. I just want to let you know, Lee, that we all got an email from many, many listeners to make sure to give you a hard time about the Tesla. So this is not our fault. We're just doing this
I welcome it.
at the request of the listeners.
Look, just like Ara, I am a sports car enthusiast. I've driven Z cars for 25 years, and I'm just kind of sad now because now I don't want to go vroom vroom like that. I want to go just silently. Boom. It's amazing. So I'm kind of ruined on cars.
So I had a Datsun 240. Did you have a Datsun?
I never had a Datsun. I had a 300 and a 350.
I had a Datsun 240.
Yeah, those are fun too.
Fun car.
I got to drive a 280 back in the day. My mom's roommate had a 280, got to borrow that a little bit. And back in the day, that was amazing because it had a voice. It would talk to you. Your door is ajar. And you'd show that to people in like the 80s. And it was amazing. Anyway, one more thing that's not car related. Accessories for less is making Christmas easier. Hooray for them. Not sponsored in any way, right? Just
nope.
That's a handy website to have. My mom is probably getting a sound bar, a little 2.1 thing, just a little woofer and a sound bar for her TV. And it's just nice. You can afford it. Might have a little scratch. No one cares.
Yeah.
Well, that is what we have been thankful for in 2021. That is the host portion of our Thanksgiving crossover event here. And so we're going to turn things over a bit to the listeners because now it's their turn to pose some questions, some topics that they wanted to have all of us weigh in on together. So I'll tell you what we'll do. I've sort of separated these up. I think if we start with just T and Alan, who both asked somewhat related things. How about Braden? We haven't heard your voice in a little bit. Would you like to read out T and Alan together there in our questions section?
Sure. T and Alan want us to weigh in on future tech. So they say, hello, kings of home theater podcasters. I'm thankful for all the hard work you all do to keep us informed. What is the status of micro-LED technology? Is it as good as OLED? And when will it become affordable to the masses? He goes on and says, I've stayed away from OLED since I have a bright room and watch a lot of static stuff. Maybe my fears of burn-in are no longer justified. Should I wait or should I get OLED now?
And Alan wrote, Ara, would you like to read out Alan's part? Because it's all related.
Alan says, what is the future of projectors? With TVs getting bigger and cheaper, my opinion is that TVs will also outperform projectors. Will projectors go away? I think Tom wants them to go away. Anyway,
Sounds
says
like
a side concern I have is how I handle putting speakers behind the TVs. I love my acoustically transparent screen with the speakers, especially the center behind the screen. Will TVs be able to accommodate this in the future?
There we go. So, I mean, this is the big screen question, the really big screen question. So, who wants to weigh in? I mean, the entire topic, it's really projectors versus micro LED. Is micro LED really ready? Is it as good as OLED? Is it going to be here and affordable soon? Tom, why don't you start us off?
So micro LEDs have not taken off as much as I had hoped in the last year. I hope to see a little bit more about them this year. I mean, we've seen a couple of products come out and a couple of things. They're still in the realm of, outdoor venues and sporting events and that sort of thing. Do I think that micro LEDs are the future? I think they could be. I very much think they could be because we can stop talking about 8K, 4K, all that garbage and talk about pixels per inch, and then how far away are you sitting from something, and then you buy the properly dense panels, which then get fit together into whatever shape you want them to get fit in. Maybe it's the entire wall, and then you have paste them on there, sort of thing. When it comes to projectors,
totally agree with that.
Yeah, when it comes to projectors, believe me, next year if micro LEDs start taking off, that's what I'm going to be thankful for. In case anybody's going to try to take it, I'm claiming it now.
Yeah.
As far as for the future of projectors, like I said, I think that projectors right now are becoming closer and closer to becoming obsolete, but you still can't get a reasonably priced screen that is bigger than 85 inches at this moment from anything other than a projector. You just can't do it. So as long as that's the case, projectors will have a place. I'm going to challenge the listener, Alan. Is it Alan? Yeah, Alan, who loves his acoustically transparent screen. I don't think you'll be able to notice the difference if you put that center channel underneath that, or above, really, but underneath that screen. I don't think you're going to hear a difference. I think that psychologically you love it, but I think that when you actually get a flat panel screen, or you get a non-acoustically transparent screen, and you put your center channel below it, it is amazing how well your brain just pushes those sounds right where they should be. I mean, it's amazing. So I don't really feel like acoustically transparent. I think it's got a lot of cool factor, a lot of wow factor, but I really don't think it's it has the performance that people really attribute to it. It's cool, but I think putting your center directly below is just fine as well. Yes.
What about Sony OLEDs using the screen itself?
Surprisingly, surprisingly, my research on those
ever be as good.
Well, the research has shown that I've read, the reviews I've read, is that it's a surprisingly okay center speaker. But whenever I go for my home theater, I go into shop and I've said, listen, don't show me anything too good. I'm looking for surprisingly okay. That's what I want out of my speakers and my home theater equipment. So,
so awesome.
If you are that person, then the Sony is for you. But if you're everybody else on the planet who would like their speakers to all match and sound good together, I would say go with individual speakers. But that's just me.
I agree, Tom, and also having a good center channel. You could just hear the texture in somebody's voice. Yeah. And I believe having a good center is going to outweigh having the TV be the center channel for you. I agree. And the other nice thing about the micro LED, if it comes out, is you can create different formats. I'm not talking aspect ratios, but if you've got a kind of weird room, you could have tiles on other parts of your wall, and maybe you put news information up there, or weather information, or even pictures. But then when it comes to watching the movie, you can have your IMAX Enhanced or whatever there. So I do believe that if micro LED comes, that will hasten the demise of projectors. There will always be a place for projectors. Braden and I have been talking about the demise of physical media for years, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, but it is less than it used to be due to streaming. So, I think the micro LED will help hasten the demise of the projector.
I want to play devil's advocate on...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
On Tom's comment on surprisingly okay in the screen. If the whole wall is the screen is your whole wall. And one of the gimmicks that Sony's talking about is they can actually locate sound on the screen to where it should be coming out of the mouth. That's where the audio is coming from. That's a real
marketing gimmick right now.
Yeah. But if
it's two actuators, it's stereo.
Well, which is better than a single, though, right? I mean, you can at least it's sort of along the lines of SDDS, right? Where you could at least kind of move content across the screen. But if we have a screen where you can locate the sound where it should be, and it's the whole wall, is that potentially, I mean, if it gets better, could that be where the center channel goes?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, like the...
Go ahead, Rob. You can.
So the demos that LG has done, because I mean, it was what Sony has actually brought to market was based on technology that LG showed in their OLEDs, because it's LG Display that's physically manufacturing the current OLEDs. So they had, I think they call it was Crystal Sound or something like that. It gave it a trademark name, but Sony actually brought it to market, and it's not identical because Sony's doing it with actuators in behind the screen, and then LG's version of it was a slightly different method of vibrating the screen. But the whole idea is just using that whole surface as a gigantic speaker membrane. So yeah, Tom, you were going to say on that?
Yeah, it's a solution looking for a problem. Basically is what it is. You are you're sitting in a room with like, I don't know how big your guys' screens are. Mine is 92 inches. I'm sitting 8 to 9 feet away from it, and there's never been a point where I thought, you know what, that voice is not coming from the top right corner where the mouth is. I've never thought that, never. So why do I need the top right corner to vibrate in order for me to think that it's coming from there? It's already coming from there. It is a marketing gimmick. That's all it is. It's unneeded. That you will never notice a difference between that and a center channel. I just don't see any way that it would ever make a difference.
Lee?
The other thing that I'm concerned about, I haven't seen a micro LED in person yet, so I don't know. But what Ara was talking about sounded like something you could, snap together, modules to make the screen whatever size and shape you want. I'm still very skeptical that you'll never, ever see those seams. How in the world? Because we're talking about the distance between pixels is so fine, and can those pixels go all the way out to the edge of each module perfectly? Can they?
From far enough away, yeah. I mean, when people get right up to it, everybody does say you can still spot the seams. But from far enough away,
the seams are only for really big screens.
Yeah. When I was at CES a couple of years ago, Samsung had their wall, and it was pretty impressive. But when you walked up to the wall, and they did have it roped off where you couldn't get super close to it, but you could see some of that. But who needs a 110-foot screen in their house? You're just not going to need that. So, but
I don't know. I might want to cover the wall one day.
Quite impressive.
But yeah, I wanted to address T's question directly about what is the status of MicroLED, and should he hold off on buying an OLED today because maybe MicroLED is right around the corner? No. Do not wait. Don't hold off. Because MicroLED it's not there yet. I mean, what you can buy at home right now, Samsung's version of it, the wall, and then LG had their announcement, just towards the end of the year here, where they've got a luxury consumer version of their micro-LED technology too. But all of them are still pick and place manufacturing. It's motorized, roboticized arms that are literally taking one tiny little micro LED at a time and placing it either on a PCB or within a wafer structure. Some of them are surface mounted, but it's still pick and place. And as long as that's the case, there's still going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But Samsung has already got the prototypes where it's TFT backplane. It's the same electronic driving technology as an LCD screen. It's just going to be sending those electrons directly to micro LEDs instead. And once that fabrication gets up and running, we should see a huge reduction in cost on micro LEDs. But it's just not there yet. We've just got to wait. And I mean, even if you're well-heeled, the people who have been installing micro LEDs, Samsung micro LEDs in their homes, the reports from the installers who've done that is that panels fail, individual modules fail, and now you've got a square chunk somewhere in your screen that's just black until that installer can come back out with a replacement panel and fix that for you. LG even said right in their literature that in the box, because they ship theirs in a flight case, and in the box they include a certain number, depending on the size you ordered, of spare panels, because they know some of those panels are going to fail. And it's that's where we are right now. So the idea that next year, those of us with normal budgets are going to be buying micro LED displays, absolutely not. And if you were I can afford an 83-inch OLED today, don't wait. But I think it's kind of interesting. There's a technology that I think is going to be in between the two, which is the quantum dot OLEDs.
Yeah.
Sorry, which one? Ara?
I thought you said mini LED.
Oh, no, I'm thinking better than that. I'm thinking the quantum dot OLEDs, because Samsung and Sony are ready to roll on that next year. CES 2022, we're going to see quantum dot OLEDs. And it's not such a huge leap, because already in LG's OLEDs, every single one of those subpixels back there it's a white subpixel, and it's going through a colored filter, or they use 4. They have a white clear one that just lets the light through to get maximum brightness. Quantum dot OLEDs is just every single subpixel is a blue OLED, and then they have red and green quantum dots to create your red, blue, green. So we've been using quantum dot filters for years now in LCD displays. OLED panel technology, when all of them are the same color, they're not actually red, green, blue, OLEDs when they're all the same color. That technology is like up and running. LG Display is taking care of that. So combining the two of them makes a lot of sense. And that's what we're going to be seeing next year. So if there were anything you might want to wait at this moment to see if it's going to be better than current LG OLEDs, it might be those quantum dot OLEDs. There's a chance of that, but micro LED, that's going to be years down the road. Just to let DJ wrap up on this.
I don't think it's as far as you think down the road, but it is not next year for sure.
It's not next year. Yeah.
No.
Sure. We'll let DJ wrap up on this because I know you've got thoughts on ambient, on acoustically transparent screens as opposed to ambient light rejecting, I was about to say. But acoustically transparent and future of projectors. I know you've got thoughts on that for Alan.
Yeah, I talked to, when I had my Lumagen installed, I talked to my installer guy, my projector guy, and I asked him flat out, we're in the middle of installing this stuff, and I asked him, what's my next projector?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me none. He's like, by the time you're ready for another projector, projectors might be outdated. They might be obsolete, and meaning within 5 years. And he was talking about the micro LED and talking about all the technologies, or even just flat panels becoming big enough to do what a projector can do. And
100-inch, that is definitely coming.
Yeah.
Like,
if you 120
affordable.
inch panel for, even if it's 10 grand, that's far cheaper than what it would take to get a projector to perform that same to that level,
to the
right?
Same level, yeah.
But I will say, like, listening to all of you guys, all of the responses, and like talking about TVs with, like Braden saying, with the speakers or the screen, there is a place for that. It's not necessarily in home theaters, though. That's in the living room, and then you can have that experience of stuff dancing across, sound moving across your screen easier than with a sound bar and stuff. I think in a dedicated home theater where I spend my week talking about the environment, that's where the projector comes in. People like that environment, and I think there'll always be a call for that, even if it's a relic and people are like, hey, check this out. And you come in and it's like the old school, like we were talking about the stupid squirty game that we used to play. There's little things, you go into a room and there's a light source behind you, and you're sitting there with your popcorn on a giant screen like you did when you were a kid. That's why I always wanted a projector. But we're getting to the point where we want better images because there is better possibilities out there. But you have to weigh, how good do you want your image to be over what kind of environment are you trying to create? And I think that's where all of our decisions come from.
We'll just have to have a noise machine that makes the film flicker sound, because like people won't even know what that was, and we'll just have to put that in there.
They still use that record sound, that record scrape sound, and nobody knows what that is. My kids are like, "What is that noise?"
Yeah.
It means that things are stopping for some reason, but I don't know what. Is it a car? Is it the car? Is that what that is?
Might be my car.
But that also gets to the acoustically transparent screens too.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with a bunch of people. I had an acoustically transparent screen, and my guy's like, get rid of that thing. He's like, you got, especially when we went to 4K and HDR, he's like, you're spending all this money at a lower light source, and you're going to put up something that's going to reflect light the wrong way or let light right through it. It's not, you're downgrading your image ever so slightly. There's that, but it's a compromise. If you have to, I've had listeners say, I have to, if my screen takes up my whole wall.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a compromise. But if you don't have to do it, I wouldn't do it. And as we get into this, TVs are taking over, you're going to have to move your speakers. And like Tom said, my speakers are on either side of a 110-inch screen. And with the exception of a couple of movies, it's usually stuff panning off screen, but on screen, it's dead on. And a lot of it is just playing with your mind. You're like, I swear to God, it was coming from that top corner. And it's, especially if it's a big bass note.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, the theaters that have been installing the micro LED, got to get it right. The actual commercial versions of them in commercial movie theaters, that's largely been Samsung. Samsung owns Harman now. Harman's a pretty decent company when it comes to audio engineering. They know a thing or two, and I mean, they've been working on that very problem. And so far, the most successful seems to have just been more directional and a greater number of speakers just all around the perimeter of the screen. And they can do some beam forming with that. They can get pretty precise with placing the sounds that way. And all of it involves more processing, more components, more cost, but it's a challenge that can be overcome. And I can definitely see that technology coming home in some form or fashion in that way too. So let's crack on to our next set of questions, because Karl and Charles both had questions that are like future looking as well. So it's all part of the same section. Lee, do you want to read Karl and Charles's together?
Sure. Karl R. wrote the following: what will our home theaters evolve into in 10 years' time? 200-inch rollable OLEDs replacing projection systems, 32 plus speakers. And Charles wrote, I started listening last year, and due to the Thanksgiving episode, I now listen to all three, and that's great.
Yay!
Charles understood the assignment.
Constantly listening to podcasts, and that's the way it ought to be. So he wants to know, where do you see home theater tech going next? He says, my first setup was a Dolby surround receiver, 4-head VCR, Pioneer speakers, and a 20-inch tube TV. I had very similar stuff back in the day. We've come a long way since then, but playing Resident Evil and hearing the dogs behind me was a game-changing experience. What do we think the future will hold?
So this is beyond even what we were talking about, and not necessarily just limited to displays. 10 years into the future, do we have any predictions of where we're headed?
I think my living room will be exactly the same in 10 years.
Well, there's one prediction. You can probably
honestly,
make
I
that
think
come true.
No difference, except
there'll
I
be
might
a car
have some
parked
different
in it, but that's okay.
Yeah, the car. If it doesn't stop itself like it's supposed to in the carport, we'll be right into the living room. So sure, maybe that'll happen. Maybe I'll have a bigger OLED. Maybe I'll have a different streaming box. But I bet you my living room will be extremely similar in 10 years because it's the size and shape it is. I can't add too many more speakers, really. Maybe a couple overhead. Maybe.
I think the modular display idea makes too much sense to not happen. And I do think within 10 years that's going to take place. Maybe it, we can't necessarily predict. It might not be the way micro LED is today. It might be some combo quantum dot LED, thing that isn't here right this second. They definitely want to do something that can be inkjet printed. I mean, JOLED has been working on that for close to a decade now. That's the holy grail, where if they can just inkjet print displays and put them on flexible modules that you can just tack up anywhere that you want. And within 10 years, that might be a reality. So I think modular displays make too much sense to not happen at some point. That's my prediction on that front. Anybody else?
They'll exist, but you also have to think about, what do people actually want in their house? So the bigger these things get and the crazier they get, the less and less people you can find that actually want them. And if the market's never quite big enough, it'll always be too expensive. So you kind of hit a point, like he asked, will rollable OLEDs come along? 200-inch rollable.
It took us like 10
that you can
years,
roll up.
Lee, to get you to buy a subwoofer at all.
A subwoofer, period.
So,
that took 20
you are
years.
not the litmus test for what the public is willing to accept in their homes, all right?
Look, I'm just saying, I've met a lot of people who don't understand why I even have tall speakers. A lot of people just don't get it.
Tall speakers either,
So
I'll be honest with you.
it's the size of the market. And I just don't think there'll ever be rollable OLEDs that would be that big, because you just hit a point where you can't get it in your house.
That's why I think the module makes more sense. What if it's a flexible
the rollable part?
You
roll it up, you bring it in like a carpet, and you put it up.
Materials research. Anything that can roll that much, will it just flop out perfectly flat when you get it in? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
So how about Ara? Do you think we're going to have more speakers? I mean, we're up to 11 now. A lot of us.
No, we don't need any more speakers. I think we have too many as it is. My home theater basically will just move from California to Tennessee. That's about the only difference.
I see.
Right on.
Yeah, I think when you think about it, like the overall theater experience, you have a screen, you've got speakers. It hasn't really changed over the last 20 years. The TVs have gotten better. The surround sound formats have gotten better. We've added a couple speakers, but it's not like there's been a massive change in the user experience.
True.
So I don't anticipate a massive change in the user experience over the next 10 years either. Stuff will get better, but I don't think it's going to be like we're going to be watching holographic images or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean,
I think wireless audio and wireless speakers are going to, receivers may go away, right? You may not need receivers anymore.
About that. wireless, do you think that we're going to become ever more wireless? Because I mean, WISA has been trying; they've been kicking at that wireless speaker protocol thing, and it seems like every company speaker brand that gets onto it eventually stops or lets it very quietly recede into the background. It just doesn't seem to have ever quite clicked, having all the speakers be wireless. Is that going to ever happen?
They have to be plugged in.
Yeah, they need power.
I read Tom's article. There's no such thing.
It's easier. Yeah, we call it less wires. Braden and I talked about that this week, actually. One of a CES we went to many, many years ago, somebody told us that it's never wireless, it's less wires. But it's easier to find a power source on the back wall than it is to snake speaker cable all the way back there. So I do believe WISA will get a foothold. It just, the problem is sound bars have come in, and many people think that's a home theater, and it is an improvement over what's on the TV, but it's not really home theater. And some of those have wireless subwoofers, and Sonos has wireless surrounds. So it is kind of a hybrid, maybe.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it in Friday's show, but WISA's still pushing, right? So Amazon's on board now, and they've got a dedicated WISA storefront, and a bunch of other websites are launching dedicated WISA storefronts. So could be a big thing for this holiday season too.
Anybody think transparent displays are going to actually be a thing?
Never.
I mean, they exist in prototype form.
Yeah.
Do we want
not in home theater?
No,
not in home theater.
You don't think a transparent display is the way to the best black levels when you can see what's behind your TV no matter what?
If you paint the wall black, sure.
There you go. Kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it sold by that same company that listener wrote into you about the sound absorbing curtain that you can see through?
Oh yes, there you go. Yeah. Well, that was IKEA. I mean, I could see IKEA selling a transparent TV. Why not?
I believe the transparent displays are mostly for point of sale. They're not really meant for people to use at home.
I don't understand hating them though. Some people hate on them. Like, that's been every sci-fi TV show that we've been watching forever. I mean, at least they're computer displays. It's mainly so that they can have the camera aimed at the person's face and it can shoot through the screen and you can see what they're seeing on their screen.
It's a pet peeve of mine, sci-fi movies with those you couldn't get anything done. There's junk behind it. You can't see what's on the screen. No, it's never going to.
VR is going to do that, and not transparent screens.
That's true now. VR will be
VR
for all of those
more popular in
where you're
10
looking
years.
at people doing the technical stuff on the transparent screens and futuristic. That's going to be VR. It won't be transparent screens.
Right. I am not going to say the word that Zuckerberg wants us to say.
Don't say it.
Nope. Even if it is a thing next year, I refuse to do our Thanksgiving episode in that virtual place, and I've blocked that word on Twitter. I refuse to acknowledge it as being a thing. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it's gonna be forced upon you. So you'll figure out what I'm meaning in a little while. But it's still Facebook. It doesn't matter if they change their name. That's who they are, and they're still awful. So Markus and Alvin want to ask us things.
Wait
about
a second, I didn't get to weigh in here, Rob. What about me?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry, man.
No.
So. Yeah, I'm going to buck the trend a little bit here and say that things are going to change pretty significantly. First of all, in the next 2 years, you're going to see AV receivers that definitely have 3 overhead speakers. That's going to be the big push because they don't have a lot going on right now. So they're going to want to be able to power 3 overhead Atmos or DTS speakers. And that's going to be their big thing. So we will.
You mean 3 pairs?
3 pairs, yes. 3 pairs, sorry.
3 pairs or 3 across?
Yeah, 3 pairs.
3 pairs.
So there'll be, top fronts, top rears, and top middles. So, or, front heights, rear heights, and top middles. So that's going to be definitely something that comes. I see the modular display that Rob's talking about. Like, I keep thinking about that Black Mirror episode where the person's, like, every wall is a display. I definitely think that that's potentially a future. Now, whether or not they're actual displays or if it's like an augmented reality VR type thing where you wear glasses or it somehow is projected into your eyes or that sort of thing, that is where I think I see things going. I see things moving further and further away from I sit down on the couch and watch a screen to I sit down wherever I want and everything in front of me is always a screen, and I can turn it into whatever I want. And I also see headphones or headphone-like devices, which could be implants or could be whatever. But headphones and headphones-like devices, when we see things like spatial audio or That's spatial. I don't know what I'm supposed to call that stupid stuff.
It's spatial.
But it's got a T in it, and it drives me nuts. But spatial audio from Apple, that whole thing is that where you face, where the audio changes based on where you're facing. And that idea of getting headphones that are good enough that you can get a really good experience, bass, I mean, you can't feel the bass like you can with a subwoofer, but getting a headphone to give you the experience of bass is much easier than trying to get a speaker to give you the experience of bass because of just the distance. So I see that being, being closer to the future.
So you're more into the personal theater idea rather than
I'm not necessarily
building
into
whole
it.
Rooms and giant displays and big speakers and more speakers and amplifiers and trying to make it all wireless. You're like, hey, maybe that horrible
just
future
look at
that Zuckerberg wants will be real.
Look at the generation. I mean, and I'm not one to bag on millennials or Gen Zs or whatever we're calling the young people these days, because they're just dealing with what we've given them, which is Beats by Dr. Dre, and that's on us. We made those, our generation made those popular for whatever reason, and now headphones are a huge part of this market. And yes, people take headphones and they're like, okay, I got these headphones because they look nice, but they sound like crap. So now I'm gonna get ones that sound good, but maybe I want something different, and now I'm gonna kind of like gateway into home theater. That can happen. I still see headphones and personal audio being a larger segment going forward, and a continually growing segment going forward than I do, projectors and personal home cinemas.
You're probably right. I don't want to wear a headset, but you're probably right.
I know.
No.
Home theater is just a stormtrooper helmet everyone puts on. You can watch whatever you want. Right?
Nobody wants to do it for very long. Like, I don't want to put it on for hours, but I would definitely put on glasses or thin light goggles and watch a cool VR thing. I absolutely would do that. Yeah.
Well, now we'll move on. Markus and Alvin.
I'd rather drive a Tesla.
Yeah.
Ara, you could drive a virtual Tesla. Even
After
better.
you move to Tennessee, I'll drive up there and you can drive mine.
So, DJ, why don't you help read out Markus and Alvin's questions together? It's all about stuff for our personal setup, so we'll answer those two gentlemen together.
All right. Markus wrote, I've been a fan of your shows for years. There's something I've always wondered. What, if any, 2-channel setups do you have for music, and which formats do you prefer to listen to? Happy Thanksgiving. Love you all. And you want me to read Alvin's too?
Yeah, they're all together.
Okay. All right. Alvin wrote, how do you all use your home theaters? Meaning, when do you watch movies? Is it alone or with family and friends? How do you decide what to watch? I'm trying to channel my inner DJ and start to enjoy my setup more. Thanks, guys, and happy Turkey Day.
Nice. Ara, why don't you start us off? Do you have a dedicated 2-channel setup separate from your theater? And how do you watch things in your theater? Alone or with family and friends?
I absolutely have. So I build speakers, and I've got some very nice speakers that I build, and I have a separate amplifier for that. It's a SVS sound base, and I will come in here in the same room that I'm recording in right now. I will pour myself some adult beverages and listen to music the old school way, where I'm just listening to music. That typically is done on a Friday evening. And it's a completely different experience than listening on headphones or in your car or whatever. It's what I call active listening. As far as movie watching, I watch that with the family, and there's a couple ways we watch. If it's just a normal TV show, we will watch usually downstairs. But if it's something nice, like a movie or something, we will come upstairs and watch it on the projector.
All right. Lee, how about you? What's your setup like?
I do have a 2-channel setup. I'm sitting in front of it right now. So my home studio office situation, when I edit videos or do anything with audio, it's 2-channel. And if I just want to sit and listen to music, I'll put headphones on in here, 2-channel, or there's 2 Yamaha 8-inch 3-way bookshelf sort of speakers on stands right in front of me. And underneath the desk here is a subwoofer. So I guess that's 2.1, but it's nice like that. And what do I listen to when I just listen to music? Honestly, high bitrate MP3s. That's what I have a huge collection of. And frankly, anything getting up to 256 kilobits per second, I can't tell the difference.
Amen.
So if you give me a 256, 320, or a FLAC file, anything like that, we have an enormous collection that we started. My God, what was my first MP3 that I created was 1997. So we have many, many thousands of MP3s, and we add to it every now and then. So that's my actual music listening most of the time. It's been a long time since I bought an album. This is how it is.
How about you, DJ? What's going on in your theater, and do you have 2-channel?
My 2-channel setup is my nice set of Apple AirPod Pros that I wear at work on Friday mornings. I listen on one channel in one ear. I listen to the HT guys when I first get to work. Then when I go home and do the lawn, I put the other ear in and listen. And the noise canceling actually drowns out the lawnmower, and I listen to AV Rant. So
wow, it's that good.
It is. The noise canceling is pretty good for earbuds. I really like them. And the spatial audio. Yeah. They're actually fun to watch something on your phone too. When you do the spatial audio and you watch it and you turn your head and it sounds like it's coming from your phone, or you connect it to your Apple TV and it really sounds like it's coming from your TV. Like you look back behind you and it's still coming from the TV. It's pretty crazy. But I don't listen to a lot of music. All of my music is usually either one ear when I'm on the bike, or I'm, if I'm working out, that's about it. All my music's all like 80s, heavy metal or hair band, just to keep me motivated, keep me running, keep me going. But my theater, back when my kids were younger, we did, we used to, we had a bag and we'd have little wooden chips, and you'd write everybody got to write movies on them and put them in the bag. And then on Sundays, we'd pick a movie out and go downstairs and watch the movie. And that lasted about 6 months, and then it got too stressful for everybody to pick the movie. Yes, stressful.
That was too stressful?
Yes, they were all like, I don't want, if it's not the one that I want to see. It's like, all right, fine. But nowadays, it's literally just, I go down, because of everybody's schedule in the house, it's when I get in there, it's just me, and I watch whatever I feel like I was saying, IMAX Enhanced right now, and I'm taking in everything I can. Anything that motivates me. That's how I do my podcast. Everything's just like, oh, what do I feel like watching this week? And it's whatever I'm passionate about at the moment, and I put it on. And that's what I like about the media servers. There's a PD. I can just jump around. I don't have to watch an entire movie. I can watch let me check out this scene. I haven't seen that in a while. Jump to that, and then bang, boom, without getting out of my seat, go to an entire other movie. So that's how I do it.
Tom, how about you?
When you've been working in this industry for a really long time, sorry, I didn't mean to sigh mournfully. It's kind of like a chef when they go home. Do you sit there and cook for yourself? They're like, no, man, I eat McDonald's. I just right. I can't even. I'm done. I've cooked all day. So my 2-channel setup is whatever I'm reviewing, which. For those of you that are interested, I should be reviewing the new monoprice bookshelf speakers the monolith bookshelf speakers that just came out.
Encore series.
Yes. But a lot of times it's headphones. So if I'm going to listen to 2-channel music, it's going to be headphones. And I have a pair of Oppo's PM1s, PM3s. These are the 3s, or the small ones. I usually use this as a podcast. I have the open backs, which are the 2s, I think, which were the ones.
Yeah, I think those were the 2s, yeah.
The
doesn't really matter. Can't get them anymore.
Can't get them anymore, but they're magnetic planar headphones. Or planar magnetic, sorry. And that's mostly what I listen to when I'm just going to sit down and really kind of enjoy music. In the theater, unlike many people, we do not have multiple TVs in our house. We have multiple screens, phones and computer screens, but we have just one screen that is used for watching content. And that is the projector in here. So I'm in my home theater right now. And we always sit down together every night, and whoever is interested in coming in here with me and my wife, because we'll sit down and we'll have something playing in the background and we'll talk, or we'll watch something that she's interested in because no one cares what I'm interested in. So, we'll watch something that we can both kind of like. And that's, we do have movie nights. We've been trying to support, especially the day and date releases. We bought almost all of those simply to tell Disney, please don't stop. But then they stopped anyways because whatever. So, but we did like when Shang-Chi came out, we watched that together. We watched Jungle Book the next day. We sat down and watched it together as a family. So we do movie night, and I'll make popcorn, or we'll buy popcorn from the local supermarket where they do the kettle corn. They sell kettle corn, and it's a pretty good experience. And every once in a while, one of my kids will look at me and say, "Oh, the couch is shaking." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because we're watching a movie and I turned it up," and that's always a good feeling when the kids finally notice something, because they are oblivious teenagers who care only about themselves. As it should be.
Proper base.
Makes sense.
Braden, how about you? What's your situation?
So my only 2-channel setup I have now is my record player, my turntable. It's not a fancy one. I got a Denon. I think it's like a DP300. And it's running through just one of my older hand-me-down home theater receivers. I think it's got a Marantz SR6012 on it and a couple of Klipsch reference bookshelf speakers. So I don't listen to it that much, just when I feel like listening to a record, and just kind of going nostalgic on it. I don't really sit down and listen to music all that often. The home theater is, it's mostly a family activity. If I want to watch content by myself, I watch in a different room, kind of man cave out, so people leave me alone. But for the most part, the home theater is kind of where we get together. We watch family movies on Sunday nights. That's where we watch the Red Notice. So it's much more of a kind of family get together group activity for us.
All right. Well, I guess I wrap up this one. I do not have a dedicated 2-channel setup. I live alone. I'm a bachelor in an apartment, so naturally I have 3 surround sound setups. Because you need one for gaming, and you need one for TV watching, and you need one for movie watching, because that's what you do when you're someone like me. So I don't have a 2-channel, but I got 3 surround sounds, and I can certainly listen to music on any of those. I don't do a ton of dedicated music listening. If it's dedicated music listening, I go into my actual, den/theater and close the door and disappear into that room, and I can listen on my ribbon tweeter speakers. So that works pretty nicely. But as far as watching movies, I mean, it's me. I'm alone in my house. I occasionally have friends over and we'll watch something, but the vast majority of the time it's me by myself. And I do, I'm not like proud to admit it, but I must admit there's 2 ways that I decide what to watch. I have my lists on the various services that I'm subscribed to. My watch list. I keep track of things that I want to watch, and it tends to be whatever has the shortest running time. That's the thing that gets watched. And if it's not that, it's I will admit I end up going with those recommendation things, like whatever's new, and I go, oh yeah, that's kind of new, and I should probably watch that before I forget about it, and it falls way down into a page where I'd have to go hunting for it or search for it directly. So yeah, that's how I end up deciding. Any last thoughts on that subject, guys, or can we?
Nope.
Not quite wrap up. I think we're running long, but Herb is a friend to all of us. He's over at Cross Spectrum Acoustics, also Cross Spectrum Labs. Certainly on AV Rant, we recommend him all the time, Cross Spectrum Labs, to get individually calibrated measurement microphones. All of us geeky people into the home theater hobby who want to measure our audio setups and see lovely graphs and charts of it in Room EQ Wizard. Enjoy having a very accurate microphone that we can trust. So Herb over at Cross Spectrum Labs is our go-to source for individually calibrated measurement microphones. And he just had a question about soap opera effect. Tom, do you want to read that one out for us, and we'll quickly weigh in on that, just because I think it's funny.
All right, I have Herb says, I have friends and family who have purchased a 4K TV, and the TVs come out of the box with motion smoothing on, and they exhibit soap opera effects. But when I try to convince them to turn it off, a lot of them think that's the way it's supposed to be. The picture looks the most different from their old TV, so they think turning it off, the motion smoothing, is downgrading the picture. So is there any content that would look so wrong that it would convince everyone that motion smoothing is bad? Glad you're all getting together for Thanksgiving. I really enjoyed last year's show. I will tell you, and this is funny. I mean, and I hate doing the whole my wife thing, because it drives me nuts. It's like the oldest trope in AV writing is even my wife knows this. I talked about this in our podcast. We during the pandemic, we had to move out of our house for a while because they found that black mold, and we had to have a kitchen renovation done. So while we were gone, we stayed at an Airbnb, and we were there for a couple of days. And it was I don't mess with other people's TVs generally speaking because I can't be bothered and whatever. And it was it was too high. It was almost on the ceiling, and it was right across from a very bright window, and there's reflections on it, and it sucked. But after like 3 days of being there, my wife looked at me and said, "Why does the picture look so weird?" And I was like, "Oh, that's motion smoothing." And we talked about soap opera effect. She goes, "I don't like it." I'm like, so Herb, I know that you want to go and fix things because that's what you are. You're a dude who has a solution, sees a problem, wants to do a solution. Sometimes the solution is you just have to wait until they figure it out for themselves that it's weird, and they will. They will, because it does look weird. Like normal TV, movies, everything. At some point, you just look at it and you go, especially if they've watched something that they are familiar with. So at the time, my son and I were rewatching. I was rewatching, but he was watching for the first time Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We were going through the whole series, and I was watching on this TV going, well, that didn't look good at all. I mean, it looks real bad because of it was trying to do stuff it just was never meant to do. So, I mean, I guess if you're really trying to get them to notice the motion smoothing, how bad it looks, ask them what their favorite TV show of all time is and say, you should watch that again on your new TV. I bet it looks really nice. And then see what they say when they come back to you.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think maybe the key would be old movies.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's where you would go, because people do have a memory, like a classic. If they've watched, maybe it's a black and white movie or something like
Casablanca, throw that on there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that might be the key, because that'll stand out as being like, that just plain looks weird. Old movies just never looked like that with the motion smoothing turned on and cranked up. So that might clues someone into that. But I mean, this just reminded me of when HDTV was brand new. We went from our tube, 4x3 almost square shaped TVs to widescreen TVs. But, Ara and Braden, you guys remember this well. Everything that was on TV was still standard definition. It was still 4x3, but people started watching it on their new 16:9 widescreen TVs, and everybody had their images stretched, right? Nobody had the black bars on the left and the right.
Oh my God.
And I came across a ton of people who thought that's what HDTV is.
Still to this day, I can't tell you how many restaurants in this stupid town,
bars, restaurants,
low def, and not just that, but it's letterboxed. It's high def put into a low def channel, letterboxed, and then that's stretched. So it's like
actually 2.35 to 1. The way around.
It's Panavision, yeah.
Well, if it's at a hot wing place, they're just trying to make everybody feel better about their bodies. So don't worry about it. That's just marketing.
Let me pose this to you. I have a cousin. I went to his house. It was still, his TV was in dynamic mode, and I changed it to cinema mode. I didn't have time to calibrate it. He hated it. And I tried to get him to understand that if he watched it for about a week, he would love it. And if he went back to dynamic mode, he would hate it. And he refused. And I just had to realize that, you know what? You can't change people. Yep. And sometimes you just got to let it be. And I know what we're talking about here. I totally agree with everything you said. Yeah. But some people are just not going to change. And if that's what they like, then that's what they like.
I agree.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's the eye and ear that we all have and that our listeners have is not what most people have. They're not even seeing what we're seeing.
They're looking at their phone most of the time anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And it's what they're seeing it's not even close to like that. A great example, like you said, is that stretched HD TV. And they're like, they thought that was fine because honestly, they didn't care and they didn't know the difference. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then whatever. More people have that soap opera effect. And I've tried to help people, and just over the years, you just realize, and I hate to say this, I know those people aren't listening, but you can't fix stupid. It's like, and it's weird. Just, this is what we do, and this is what we see, and this is what we care about. They don't. And there's nothing wrong with it, but they just don't care.
Yeah. Well, Braden, do you think you've got an example in mind that can help her buck this trend that we're all saying?
No, if you don't see it, you don't see it, right? I mean, I can't watch it. When I watch any content with soap opera effect, it takes me out of the video, right? It makes it look like it's just two people, running lines. It doesn't even feel like a show. It feels like actors on a set. And, when you turn it off and it feels more like you're watching video where you're, actually observing what you're supposed to be observing, it feels like you're in it. But if you don't see that, if it's not pulling you out of the experience or it's not annoying you, I mean, I can't convince someone, hey, look at how annoying it is, right? You just have to let them come to that.
We're all like those, that episode in Seinfeld with the ugly baby. You go to these people's houses and they go, what do you think of my TV? And you're like, nice. Big.
Yeah.
That's good. Beautiful.
I think what you do is you get them to buy an Ultra HD Blu-ray player and a copy of Gemini Man, which is 60 hertz on the disc itself. Then
they don't care.
No, then you get them to buy one of DJ's Lumigen Radiance processors and have it convert that down, like playing 60 hertz off the disc, but convert that down to 24 and then have their TV motion interpolate it back up to 120. I think if you do all of that, it'll look so horrendous.
Oh yeah.
And they'll have spent so thousands of dollars.
It's frustrating. I actually like high frame rates. I think it's really neat, but you have to make the movie on purpose with that, right? I like video. I like the liveness of it. But if it's supposed to be 24, like I was saying much earlier in this podcast, I want to see what the director wanted me to see. Not
filmmaker
not
mode.
what the TV made up.
For baseball
mode,
games,
showing up.
It's fine.
Yeah.
For movies, no, it's not fine.
Okay.
Right.
Well, guys, we have come in under 2 hours. That was the goal. I think we
knocked a half hour off.
That's right. We have
look at how
this
much
was
I
a
drank.
quickie.
That was full when I started.
Wow.
Oh, I missed it.
Wait a minute. So Ara's saying he's still got plenty.
And Ara's saying he can go for 2 more hours.
Yeah, exactly. He's got plenty of fuel left.
Ara's not going to know when we end the podcast. He's going to keep sitting there talking.
Yeah, Ara's got plenty of fuel. Lee's all charged up out in the garage.
That's right.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, did he get his text saying his car was charged up?
No, but it is. I could check real quick if you want me to. Not a problem.
No one does. No one
cares. What? No one wants to hear.
No one cares.
What's on it?
No.
But yeah, to wrap up here, in case each of us is going to be releasing this very same episode on Thanksgiving Day in the United States, across our respective channels. So there's every possibility that listeners of one of our podcasts are meeting the rest of this crew for the first time when they're hearing this. So let's let everybody know where they can get in touch with us. Braden, Ara, how do people get in touch with the HT guys and the HDTV Home Theater Podcast?
Super simple. Go to htguys.com on the internets. That's it.
And do you want to give out your Twitter addresses in case people want to hit you up that way?
I'm super, super prolific and active on Twitter.
We know, man.
Yeah,
we know. It's just a constant stream. We can't get away
from it. You got to turn it off,
tweets.
Mute it because it's annoying.
Don't try to beat
I'm
me,
at Braden
man.
Russell, and Ara tweets is at HDTV Podcast.
I actually thought
I think I do like
accidentally
one more
blocked you.
tweet than you do a week.
DJ, how can folks find you and the Bright Side Home Theater Podcast?
BrightsideHomeTheater.com. You can find all the links there, or if you want to follow me on Twitter, at BrightsideHT. And you questions, comments, not really questions, that's for you guys, but I take all that and I do a second podcast every week on Tuesdays, just talking to the listeners. So you can do all that there.
Very nice. Tom, how do people reach us at AV Rant Podcast?
Right. AV Rant is the podcast that answers your home theater questions. All you got to do is ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. You can come to our website. I turned off the comments because I couldn't take it anymore. It's not you.
He hates comments.
It's the Russian bots. All right. If you want to send us some sort of comment, then send it directly to question@avrant.com. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/AV Rant Podcast, youtube.com/AV Rant. If you want to see us badly lip syncing, talking to each other across two countries. And then Rob, you can contact him directly. Rob at avrant.com. His Twitter is at FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My Twitter is at avrant_Tom. I find it hard to believe that I tweet more than Braden does, but I wouldn't know because I haven't opened Twitter in about 6 months.
I think we could count it, and I think Tom would actually take the crown.
Well, I did used to tweet a lot.
Well,
but I haven't tweeted in a really long time.
I get a tweet every Friday morning when the new AV Rant
that's not
is released.
me. That's the website. I don't do that. That just happens automatically.
Really?
I don't have anything to do with that.
Auto-generated.
I don't do that.
Darn, I thought I had a connection to you, Tom. Now no connection. It's
You have a connection to me. Email me anytime you want, man. You and I
got it.
You've even got my phone number. So,
and Mr. Lee Overstreet, who is our occasional guest pinch-hitting co-host on AV Rant when either Tom or myself can't make it some weeks, but we still got to answer the questions, so Lee fills in for us, typically on short notice because he's a good pal like that. But yeah, you can reach here anytime. You can reach him on the Twitters as well. So where do folks find you, Lee?
On Twitter at Lee Overtweet. Easy to remember. At Lee Overtweet.
And what if they want to talk Teslas? Because there's some people want to talk Teslas.
Does anyone care? Okay, sure. At Tesla Lusa. I live in Tuscaloosa.
Oh my God.
So it's at Tesla Lusa.
Well, how did you ever get on my podcast? That's the real question. That's the question that we need to answer next year. How did you worm your way in?
I emailed you.
Oh,
I emailed you and just charmed you.
It's like all I can think of
emailing you about 2012
is Lee sitting in his Tesla watching motion smooth video on his Tesla screen. And playing the vroom vroom song, the sounds on the outside. That's all I can think of
but
now.
Specifically, he's watching Alabama football.
Oh my God.
That's true now. I could watch Alabama football in the car.
And posting on Facebook, Roll Tide for the 7 millionth time. I have to block him for like 3 months at a time because I can't take it.
Every Saturday, I do tend to say things on Facebook about Alabama football. Sorry, but I was raised on it. I live here. What am I going to do? It's the only thing to do in this town. So yeah, at Lee Overtweet for regular old, Twitter stuff.
I drove through there one time, Lee. I wish I knew you lived there. I would have stopped by and said hi.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, if you ever do it again, or when you move to Tennessee, I'll come see you. That's pretty close.
Well, we said it at the top of the podcast, but it more than bears repeating. What we are most thankful for is the wonderful community of listeners who have supported us and written to us, given us notes of encouragement and gratitude and sent in questions and just kept the entire podcasting thing going for us. All of us here, all 6 of us, strictly do this as a labor of love. We are listener supported. We're not doing this as a career. We're not trying to be influencers and get all crazy sponsorship and all that stuff. We just are guys who enjoy talking about home theater. We do it in slightly different ways. Our podcasts all complement one another. And the most complimentary thing we have are people who enjoy listening to us and interacting with us. So a huge, huge thank you to the listeners. That is the thing we are most thankful for in 2021 and for as long as we're able to keep doing this and have these go out on the internet to live forever and ever until the heat death of the universe. So that is wonderful. Thank you all.
Way to go out on a high note, Rob.
Everything.
We'll keep doing this till the heat death of the year.
Do I have to bag on DJ for a while just so we can book in this thing? I don't know.
That sounds about right.
You gonna talk about my closet again?
I don't know. I don't want to make you nervous, man. You seem a little.
So
I'm not nervous anymore.
Free DJ.
Free
hostage.
So DJ, would you like to
DJ.
start the sign-off process for this, our Thankful in the Multiverse of Podcasts episode for 2021?
For the second year, now stay in and listen to something.
Go watch some HDTV. Don't watch HGTV. Go watch some HDTV.
I mean, if you're into home and garden television, you can watch that too. You can watch it in high def. Can we start over, DJ? Let's go take 2 on that one.
Let's start over.
All right.
I'll do it right.
All right. For the second year, now stay in and listen to something.
Go watch some HDTV.
Go push play.
And we'll see you next Thanksgiving. You had one job, Lee.
Man, you blacked out and wouldn't talk, and we all finished the podcast.
That's it. Sorry.
Exactly.
Well, you fixed Tom's video, though.
That's right.
We had to sacrifice you for the good of me. And that's the way it should be.